Well, the core of the case is the plaintiff's allegations that decades ago, 1995, 1996, she's not even sure exactly when, she had an encounter with Donald Trump, who was then just a well-known businessman. And the encounter led to a sexual assault in a dressing room at a high-end retail store in New York City. That's the core of the case. There's some things that emanate from that, but that's what's going to have to be resolved at trial. Did that happen?
It's a civil case, so it's not a criminal proceeding, so he doesn't have to worry about jail time or anything like that. But it can be serious civil ramifications. We're talking about money here, and it could be a significant amount of money if it wins and he's found not only to have defamed her, but also to have committed the battery that's alleged. So there's certainly a lot at stake.
Yes, let's not fool me.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Normally, in a civil case, there's a period of years after the event that you have to bring the case, or you lose the ability to pursue it. It's called a statute of limitations. And battery cases typically are pretty short statute of limitations, 1, maybe 2 years. So technically, the plaintiff would have had to bring this lawsuit within 2 years of the alleged assault in 1995/1996. She doesn't remember the date particularly. She didn't, for various reasons. But in part because of her lobbying about this case, the New York State Legislature passed a special statute for people who allege sexual violence to bring these claims now, even though they happened decades ago. So she lobbied for this, and she's one of the most high visibility beneficiaries of this essentially waiver of the basic rules. This is not a typical sexual assault case or battery case by any stretch of the imagination. No juror is going to walk in there with a zero opinion of Donald Trump. That's going to be one of the interesting parts of jury selection, because he's the most controversial figure in America, maybe the world right now. You have no obligation to defend charges against you. And a subset of that is you have no obligation to show up in court. So he's perfectly within his rights to show up, to testify or not testify. And so that's unusual. Usually defendants want to show up and defend themselves. So all she's got to prove here, and I don't mean it's an easy case, she has to prove that Donald Trump acted with intent, that he wanted to have his body touch hers, that his body did touch hers, that it was in a harmful or offensive way, and that she didn't consent to it. And then she has to prove damages. And that's a whole different question. And that gets complicated as well, because she didn't come forward with this for decades. And she will be subject to cross-examination for why didn't you, if it's such a horrible traumatic experience, why didn't you A, report it to the police, and B, file your lawsuit years ago and not wait till now when memories have faded, witnesses may not be available. There's lots of reasons why the law wants you to proceed with your cases sooner rather than later. And that's a vulnerability of her case. She apparently has at least 2 people who she spoke to contemporaneously and discussed whether to report it, and concluded that she wouldn't. And they apparently are on the witness list.
There's a fair amount of evidence out there of Trump doing the similar thing to other people. So we have these other 2 women who you say he basically is almost the exact same scenario. He approached them, assaulted them, and then made fun of him afterwards. And they're also going to have the Access Hollywood video. Judge is going to let that in too. So a jury's going to see how he talks about women, this falls into what he said, how, if you're a celebrity, you can do anything that you want, you can grab them down there, etc. And this is just another instance of him doing that. And so that can be compelling testimony. If a jury believes, hey, he keeps doing it, he's done it before, why it's not unbelievable he wouldn't do it now. So that's probably the best testimony she has. And it's just going to depend when she gets on the stand, and how she testifies, if they believe her, because if there's any doubt at all, this credibility is everything on this, because it's really a he said, she said.
This is not a $10,000 damage case. This is a big damage case. And as I said, the damages part of the law tends not to be very closely scrutinized by judges. So once liability gets over the hump, it's pretty much open season on Donald Trump and his correctly perceived, many dollars.
Yeah, 1 second.
The closer you get to stepping out and doing opening statements, settlements become more and more likely. It could be maybe she doesn't want to. Maybe this isn't about money, and she wants, the factual record to get out there of what happened. It's been all these years. It's been gnawing at her. And in her mind, he's been denying this and mocking her. So maybe it's not about the money.
All right. Headband, guys. Don't be a jabroni. Guys with the headband.
She's got a pink headband on.